of Hampton Roads, and I am honored to, I guess, moderate this very, very special panel. I'm also a Virginia U.S. history teacher, and I teach about the Vietnam War every damn year. But I am honored to kind of get a little bit more grounded in terms of what the Filipino American contribution was to that war. My students, their understanding of Vietnam War stops at Forrest Gump, and I need to make sure that they know more than that, especially my Filipino American students. So I'm honored to be here and moderating. If you want to ask questions, you can put it on the chat. We'll be moderating that, or we can save it for the question and answer later on. I actually don't even know who's going to be presenting today. There seems like a really great group of guys here that Alan invited. So I'm going to let Alan kind of take over. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for sharing your space and your stories with us across the nation. Thank you guys so much. Let's give them a big round of applause. All right, Alan, you're up.
Okay. Okay. This is kind of a quick introduction throughout this whole process, where October is declared Filipino American History Month, and we are the FANHS Hampton Roads chapter. We are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year, and as part of this, we decided to present to you some of the gifts that we're giving out, as far as like the FANHS Legacy Month. You'll be able to read about that, which is describes all the people that helped put FANHS together. Then our FANHS Youth Summit is an alternative way on how we taught history for the kids. What we did is we encouraged, it was very hard to keep the attention span of young kids to do straight up history. So we have them create spoken word dramatizations and skits so that the histories become alive. And 1997 was the first time we did this, and it's been very, very effective afterwards. The Virginia Beach Proclamation, this is for those in the various cities who would like to use this as a you could copy and use this to help get your city to recognize October. And our third gift to FANHS is the Born of Empires Content Academy, which we created 2 years ago. And in that link, you'll be able to see all these wonderful resources on Filipinos and Filipino Americans. And finally, our membership, we would like you guys to encourage people who have not joined a FANHS chapter to join our chapter. And we're giving a special for $20 in 2020. You get to become a chapter member for a year. These are the FANHS programs that we've done throughout the month, starting back in the 1st, and then we have the 5th. And what you get here is you'll have the actual presentation outline and the recording for each of those sessions. We are FANHS. That one there, we had Auntie Dorothy for a record 3 hours she was on. So this is the first time that we're using Zoom as a medium to articulate Filipino American History Month. So right now, that's the longest Zoom session by any FANHS chapter. So 3 hours, and Auntie Dorothy holds it. On the 25th, we talked about Virginia Beach, and the 27th, we talked about the mix of marriages here in Virginia, and that's why it's called When Virginia Wasn't for Lovers. And today we're going to talk about the Filipino American veterans. Now, everybody should have a copy of this whole thing that I'm just going through real quick, but this is just to help you get some background information. These are some videos that you can look at. These are the 2 FANHS videos that were produced about 2-3 years. Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, on the actual Filipino American Vietnam veterans in Seattle. These are some articles on the military draft, in case you guys don't remember or you don't realize that there was a draft and how it affected us. And so these are some really good articles for you to read and to get some background on that. This is the logo for the Filipino American Vietnam veterans. This is this describes what each of the symbols are here. You guys can look through that. And these are the bios of our speakers tonight. You got Peter, who was my next door neighbor, and he actually is our first American Book Award winner. He's a prolific writer, reader, and by far, and this is the first time I'm going to admit, Peter, you are by far the smartest Filipino I know. I'm giving you props.
Next to John.
Next to John. And then we have Dan, John, and Larry. And you guys can sift through those bios. And John gave me your pictures way too late, and I had to read instructions on how to put it up there. So when you click on your bios and you see your pictures, some of them will be all messed up, but that's my bad because I don't know how to do, how to set it up, but I tried, okay? And this is where our presentation is going to start. Peter is going to try to describe what the typical 18-year-old male, Filipino-American male had back in 1965. Like, well, what were the options?
68.
Or no. I'm just saying 65 because you're reading a reading in 1968 called September 20th, 1968. But in general, what were the options that Filipino Americans males have? So go ahead and answer that question, and then you can start doing your reading. Peter Bacho.
Not much in terms of, well, let me tell you a story. And it's part of September 20th, 1968, the story or the mini memoir that I'm going to read to you. I remember we fielded, John, you remember this? We had a Filipino American basketball team in summer league up at Asa Mercer. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then our guys kept disappearing. First you left, then Chick, and then at the end of the season, Kenny Asena left. You guys all got drafted. It's like our team's disappearing. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were the first to go,
Never.
and then Chick was the next one to go.
And then Norm, Hank.
Norman didn't play ball. He
No.
didn't play basketball, but
He went though.
Yeah, he was there, and Henry too. But it was you. You showed up at the first game. Second game, you were gone, brother. And then Chick was gone after the first game, and then near the end of the season, Kenny Asena was gone. It's like our team disappeared. Anyway.
Well, so you guys must have had a pretty short team, huh?
Yeah, we kept losing people to the draft, man.
Beating us all.
We kept losing guys. These are guys like about 3 years older than me. So it's like I hadn't turned 18 yet, right?
Yeah, you're a youngster.
As a youngster. But everyone that was on our, not everyone, but guys on our team kept disappearing into the draft. It was scary. It was scary. But we won. Hey, Dan, your brother-in-law, Dave Belmonte.
Dave? Yeah.
He ran the team. He was good.
Yeah. He coached you guys?
Yeah, he coached us.
Really?
Yeah. It was
I don't know if I knew.
You were in Vietnam, brother. You were gone.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Yeah, in 68 you were gone.
So you were either gone or you played ball. Those were the only options for a Filipino American male.
Hey, look, I mean, part of the problem, and you can draw this as a distinction, but I don't think the public schools did a good job with Filipino American males.
They never did.
Because, they didn't consider them, for the most part, academic. They didn't consider the academic potentials, and some really smart guys got discouraged, in my opinion, from going to college. It's either you study the basic courses, chemistry and algebra and all this other stuff,
yeah,
or they'll beat you.
That's true. That's no lie.
All of that's true.
That's why I didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
That's why I had to move to Garfield, man.
Yeah, you had to move to Garfield. But I mean, the academic expectations were different between O'Day, and I'm not going to talk about the other Catholic schools because they really didn't matter. About the Filipino Americans, that's the truth. That is the truth.
We were at O'Day.
Yeah. At O'Day, you were expected to go to college. At
Yeah.
Garfield and Franklin, the assumption was, you're going to do something else. But I still have a beef against the Seattle public schools for what it did to our generation. They didn't do a good job.
Okay. So would you like to start your reading here?
Yeah, I'll do it. Then I got to disappear for a while because I got to watch election stuff. I mean, basically that's the subject of that's the subject that I'm teaching tonight is presidential elections. It's called September 20th, 1968. And I've had a chance to practice it the last time we were on last week, so I'm going to read it again. Could it have been that long ago? The first day of my 18th year, and I'm spending it at the Military Induction Center in Seattle. Me and other accidental boy soldiers, filling out forms, taking tests, bending over, just bobbing along in a white fruit of the loom sea. Now, for those of you who are youngsters, you don't know what fruit of the loom is, but we all do, right? For those of us who are old, we know what fruit of the loom is. I glanced around the room. Not many razors needed. I was a product of Catholic school, deferred sexuality, and Stations of the Cross sublimation, a virgin. But I knew I wasn't the only one. I also knew that some of them weren't coming back, and on their tombstones it should read, poor, fill in the name. The only tit he ever sucked was his mom's. Was I scared? Too strong. Apprehensive? That fits. My road to the induction center started the year before in the spring when I got a phone call from a high school pal. And those of you guys in Seattle know the name, Stephen Aspiris. We were juniors at the time, and the Vietnam War was too far down the road to worry about. Besides, as a soon-to-be senior at O'Day High, I had more important things to worry about, like a high hopes basketball season. Steve said he'd drive, and we'd be joined by Teddy Davina, Vince Bisaya, and Gene Navarro, the other three slightly older than Steve and me, their high school years a chapter in their past. As we cruised the city's neighborhoods and headed downtown, we listened to rhythm and blues, just hanging out, an activity at which Filipino Americans of my day excel. Among the jokes and banter, the camaraderie, the comfort that comes with a common ethnic identity and a shared history, Gene suddenly dropped a bomb. He'd signed with the Marines, he said, his tone matter of fact. He'd be reporting to boot camp in a few days. Ted and Vince would be next, snatched up by the military. For all three, there was only one destination, Vietnam. That's when the war hit home. My time was coming. Gene, Vince, and Ted could have postponed military service by going to college with its life-saving 4-year deferment. I was hoping to do that. But among too many of my Filipino peers, it wasn't an option. Our immigrant parents came from poverty. In America, they worked in the nation's underbelly, migrating through seasonal backbreaking jobs on farms and in salmon canneries. The luckier ones worked as busboys and dishwashers. By the 1960s, their economic situation had improved, but not enough to send their sons to college. My friends also had unconsidered options like Canada, but I know what they would have said. Nope, that's what white guys did. Or how about growing their hair, burning their draft cards, and protesting the war? Same thing. Then there was a stereotype prevalent among Seattle's white public high school teachers and counselors that unlike studious and well-behaved Japanese and Chinese boys, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir, young Filipino males were just not college material. Try the post office, they were told, or learn a trade. Oh, and cut your hair, stop jaywalking, and pay taxes. They smoked, they drank, they talked smack to the ladies and slicked their hair. Pomade, of course, just like their dads. They brawled in the streets. They danced too black. College in 1967. Give me a break, brother man. That's what white guys did. It's not like Vietnam was the only thing I thought about. But when I did, I had a hard time seeing myself in Army Green. For starters, I hated the woods, never mind swamps, steamy jungles, rice paddies, killer snakes, and pooping outside. Ditto for hiking and sleeping outdoors. Guns and loud noises scared me. Getting shot scared me more. Campfires without s'mores? Forget it. I felt lucky being not yet 17, which gave me more than a year of ongoing adolescence and perhaps enough time to figure things out. Besides, maybe the war would be over by then. Plus, there were the distractions of senior year, the upcoming basketball season, college applications, and with a little luck, maybe even a girlfriend. Everything but the girlfriend went okay. We beat Seattle Prep, our bitter crosstown rival, and qualified for the playoffs, where we got bounced in the first game. I even got accepted, despite an exceedingly modest academic record, to the University of Washington. But a girlfriend? I fell one win short of the Triple Crown. Graduation came and went, and I was 3 months away from turning 18. It was time to get serious about this Vietnam thing, a point driven home by our Filipino Summer League basketball team. As the season wore on, our guys kept disappearing, leaving for basic, leaving for war. Then one day in August, I decided to launch a preemptive strike. And believe me, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. I would join the army, but only under my terms. Sure, I'd been accepted to the UW. My acceptance gave me the precious deferment, but how long I could hold on to it was another matter. The truth was that going to the university intimidated me. It was so impersonal, bloodless, soulless, and huge, a city within a city. And I was convinced I would flunk out and become meat for the body-hungry draft, and like so many draftees, be sent to the bush to hike, shoot, and poop outdoors. I told the recruiter I wanted to be in military intelligence, where my ability to type and answer telephones, follow office etiquette, and politely brown-nosed superiors would be highly valued. I also wanted the 6-month delayed entry program, my plan B after flunking out of the UW. He tried to talk me into the airborne. No thanks, I replied. I signed the paperwork. On my birthday, I reported to the induction center. At the end of what was becoming a tedious day, I had one more step in the process, a meeting with the medical officer. In a sense, I was relieved. The day would finally end. Plan B would be underway, and would have been too, but earlier I had filled out a form asking if I had a history of the listed maladies or diseases. Asthma, I wrote, which was true. As a child, I'd been hospitalized after a nasty attack. But I outgrew it and became the picture of teenage health, playing football in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the spring. I entered the doc's office. He was seated behind his desk, and he motioned for me to sit down. As he scanned my medical history, I glanced at his features. Blonde hair with blue eyes, a handsome man who looked younger than his calendar years. He also looked kind, serene, like a priest who'd just been sitting at the right hand of God. He looked at me, he looked up and stared at me. I see you've had asthma, he said solemnly. Yes, I had it as a child. He says, that means if you go to a hot, dusty place, there's a chance your asthma could act up. I hadn't thought of that. My asthma acting up in a hot, dusty, and violent environment was the least of my worries. I was puzzled. unsure what the doc was getting at. Before I could reply, he repeated himself slowly and more firmly this time, like he was talking to an idiot. That means if you go to a hot, dusty place, ding. I realized then he was trying to flunk me out. He was doing his best to give me my life. Yeah, I finally mumbled, sure. He sat back in his chair, the slightest of smiles forming at the corners of his mouth. I'm afraid you can't join the army, son. Sorry, you'll get a 1Y instead. A 1Y? It means you'll only serve if there's a national emergency. I got up to leave. This was so unexpected. I didn't know what to feel. Half a century later, I can't remember if I thanked him then, but I now know I should have. Because of him, I was able to continue in college, go to law school, screw up a legal career, and 2 out of 3 marriages. But why the kindness? Maybe it was because he knew the war couldn't be won. Or maybe it was proof that God really does love fools. Or perhaps it was because the great cosmic joker, Signor Lucky Dog, chose my birthday to drop me a bone. Or maybe it all went deeper, that he knew the war shouldn't have been fought in the first place. Whatever the reason, I know he concluded that I'd be one more teenage discardable in this most dubious of battles. But the doc didn't know of plan B, that I carefully planned to sit out my tour in an office with air conditioning, or at least fans. But being 18 and being very naive, I didn't realize that my best laid plans could gang after glay, easy enough in the war zone. Every morning for the last several years, I've smudged with tobacco and sage, praying for the well-being of those who are close to me. When his turn comes up, I see his face. This is my prayer. Thank you, Army Doc, who saved my life. End of story.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
And right now I'm going to show this video.
Veterans of both World War II and the Vietnam War risked their lives for their country. But the way they were treated by both the U.S. government and fellow citizens could not have been more different. A lot of that had to do with why they were fighting in the first place. On December 7, 1941, Japan waged a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. The U.S. declared war on Japan, and it didn't take
Volume's a little low.
to rally around the cause.
The sudden criminal attack perpetrated by the Japanese.
Alan, can you turn it up?
Have treacherously violated
I don't know how to do that.
long-standing peace between them.
Right there.
Allied Nazi Germany
It's all the way up.
US days later,
Yeah, mine is too.
larger goal of fighting fascism. Though there was a drought, thousands voluntarily enlisted to
Alan, can I chime in real quick?
Dr. B.
Alan. I think Alan's buffering, guys.
He's frozen.
He's frozen.
Just
I'll just speak a little bit. I had the same issue with my classes during virtual learning. I think what's happening is that we have a lot of information going through from Alan's computer to everyone's computer at home. My students have the same issues. So what happens is that the video and also the sound gets compromised. I would suggest
Alan's
that
system
when Alan
crashed, Ray. Alan's system crashed. He's rebooting right now.
Oh, okay. So he's rebooting. So as Alan's rebooting, I think we'll kind of like continue with the discussion a little bit. With that video, hopefully Alan will send that video through a link in the chat or give us that video through an email. I think it's going to be more efficient with our time since we are at 8:30 and we have a lot of people here whose voices still need to be heard. Can we give Peter Baccio a big round of applause for that great reading? That was really incredible, Peter. That put me right into that space, and also the times that you described in the late 60s growing up in Seattle. Great story. I'm gonna let's see, I'm just gonna choose somebody, I guess, or does anyone want to volunteer to kind of share their contribution in terms of the topic? Anyone want to go?
Dan.
Dan, I think you got volunteered by Barbara Bragano. She's in charge now since Alan is not here. So Dan, you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Your mic's off, Dan. Dan, turn your mic on.
Unmute.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
All righty. So, yeah, hi, everybody. And I know Barbara's a manager, so she called on me first. Thank you. Unlike both my two friends here, John and Larry both, I have not been as active. I've been hardly not active at all in the Filipino community all these years. Both of them have been quite involved in veterans organizations too. Me, only by Facebook. But my bio's there, so you can read my bio. I don't know, did you want me to go through my bio, Barb, or do you want me to just kind of hang around and let you ask questions?
Yeah.
We have questions for the panelists. If you would like to expand upon some of these questions, the questions are listed in the chat right now, but some of the questions that we've posed are, 50 years of silence, why speak up now? What lessons can you share from your Vietnam War experience? What is the significance of Filipino American Vietnam War veterans? So if you would like to, say a few words about each of these questions, feel free. The floor is yours.
Oh, sure, thanks. So I was aware of these questions, so I did have some time to think about it. And yeah, 50 years of silence. I wasn't completely silent all that time, but I wasn't very loud either. So when I did return from Vietnam, I found out that I didn't have really many people to talk to. My mother and father, of course, were around. I was living with them. My father asked me a couple of things, nothing too specific. I don't think he wanted to push the issue, and I didn't push the issue with either one of them. I had old friends. They would ask a question. Oh, you just got back from Vietnam. Wow, how was your tour? Well, that was the end of that little talk because I really couldn't tell them about it. They didn't want to hear the stuff I wanted to talk to them about. They just wanted to hear a little, and they wanted to at least let me know that they were aware I was gone. But so apparently what I found out was I wasn't the only one with drama. And of course it wasn't all about me. So I understood that. So I just didn't talk for a long, long time. One of the other things that kept me from talking is I volunteered for Vietnam when I finished my stateside training. And I had ulterior reasons for that. I found out when I was in Georgia that if I spent a year in Vietnam and got back with less than 5 months remaining, then I'd get an early out. And I hated being in the Army in the worst way. I just hated it. I would have done anything to get out early. But I was also a good trooper. I made the best of my time in the service. But I didn't really have access to the people I knew before. I was a war protester. Few activists that I knew were no longer around. There were very few vets around that I was aware of, and those that were of no help to me. I thought I had street cred, and I didn't, or at least I didn't, in compared to the people who would come up to me and, Dan, you were against the war, weren't you? Why'd you go over there? And I would say, well, so I'd know what I was talking about. But I joined an outfit a few months after I got back, John Kerry's outfit, Vietnam Veterans Against the War. The local guys at the University of Washington, boy, they were in bad shape. We would meet every week, and we'd end up at the Century Tavern, eating pizza and drinking beer and whining about our life. So that wasn't very helpful to me. One of the other reasons I'm speaking up now is I'm sick. I retired earlier than I wanted to because of Agent Orange. I had the trifecta. I've got stage 4 cancer. I'm a diabetic, I take insulin. And I've got MMN, which is multifocal motor neuropathy. It's not fun. But that was a recent thing for me, and I've been kind of living the pride of my actions when I was young and in college, and I went in the service. And as we like to say, those of us who are impacted by Agent Orange, I was killed in Vietnam. I just haven't died yet. Kind of funny, kind of not. There are only 3 other things that I wanted to mention about why speaking up now, and that is at my 50th high school reunion, I reconnected with old friends who were Vietnam veterans, connected with old friends who really helped me out. 3 of us got together and we would talk, tell war stories. It was good to be together with them. One of the other items that happened recently that has got me talking is, and I'll just say it, Proud Boys. It had me recalling 1966, 67, 68. And yeah, I speak out about it now. And the last thing on why I'm speaking out now is I'd like to tell you why I'm not a sucker, a loser, or an idiot. But I don't know if I can prove it, because I've always been a sucker, a loser, or an idiot when it came to making big decisions in my life. So I just don't think I am, but that's why I'm talking now.
Not true, brother.
Hi, sis.
Hey, Dad.
I see one of my beautiful sisters has joined us, so that's nice to see you, sis. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, the idiot I married to is here too.
Hey, Dad. I don't want to see my face, so she's in the cover.
There he is.
Okay. Brother-in-law, Carmen and Carmen. I bet nobody has that in their family. So we call the boy Carmen Carm, and we call the girl Carmen Carmen.
Yeah, she has other names
Or
for me.
sis.
She has other names for me.
Hey, I don't want to know your pet names. I've heard of them.
Yeah. This is fascinating.
So, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for that, for sharing your story there, and believe me, man, you're my hero. You're a role model. You're a hero.
Always have been for me, brother.
And hey, you served the country. We're proud of you, bro. Thank you. Larry, you want to pick up here? John?
Yeah, let me unmute my mic. There you go. Hi.
Go ahead.
I'm Larry Alcantara. I got out of high school 1965, 1 credit short of graduation. Didn't have many prospects. I'd been working for Uncle Frank Belmonte, and working in restaurants for about 4 or 5 years. You know, professional pearl diver, dishwasher, sometimes a little busboy, sometimes Chinese fry cook. But as my brother Peter talked about, you know, they didn't really groom us in high school to go to college. And, you know, my father came over in the 20s. He left Ilocos Sur at 17 years of age, you know, and he came from a long history of pig farmers. He only went to the 5th grade. So, you know, we didn't really have that nightly discussion at the dinner table about higher education. That wasn't where we were oriented. So I get out of high school and I'm thinking, man, I know I'm not going to college. My grades aren't there and I don't have any motivation. What am I going to do? You got to remember that Vietnam was not on the nightly news in June of 1965. So my best friend, Lenny Ligo, gets a draft notice for the Army. And long story short, we end up volunteering, enlisting in the Marine Corps together and going to boot camp and arriving on October 1st, 1965. It didn't seem like such a bad deal. We kind of knew in the back of our minds there was a war going on, or at least getting started. But we kind of believed, you know, we were products of the 50s, you know, we kind of believed our government leaders who said, if you don't stop communism in Southeast Asia, you're going to have to stop it on your front door. Wow. I didn't want to see, you know, my dad out there having to protect his property in the United States. Yeah. And of course, as Peter Bacho said, you know, we weren't war protesters and we weren't conscientious objectors. We weren't fleeing to Canada to avoid our patriotic duty. You know, we felt indebted to this country for the life they gave our parents, even with the mass discrimination that our fathers and mothers and families experienced. And the migrant fields and the pineapple fields and the canneries of Alaska. Even despite that, they still had the opportunity for a better life and to provide their children an education and upward mobility. So yeah, we did our civic duty. We were patriotic and we believed our government who said we were going to fight a just war. Long story short, I'm in Vietnam in November 1st, 1967. I returned back to the world in September of 1968. I was done with my tour of duty. One day I was in the jungle, and the next day I'm walking down the sidewalks of Seattle. And there was no in between. There was no transition. There was no thank you. You got home. And I looked at my peer group. I looked at my best friends, and they were doing exactly the same thing they were doing when I left. Not a single thing changed. Most of them didn't want to talk about the war. And if anybody had a question, it was more like, how many people did you kill? You know, like all veterans of combat, it's just not something we talk about. Society had taken a stand against the war. And unfortunately, at that time, they did not separate the war from the warrior. So they hated the Vietnam War. They hated the Vietnam warrior. We couldn't get a break. It kind of forced us to take on a bunker mentality, you know? It forced us to push all of that experience to the background. You didn't want to share with anybody that you were in Vietnam. You know, you didn't wear your symbols or insignias with pride. You just said, man, that's over with. I got to get on with my life. And I can remember, you know, my political consciousness being awakened while I was in Vietnam. I kept asking myself, now, why am I here again? You know, to stop communism? It seemed like North Vietnam was fighting a civil war and the United States was propping up a puppet government. Something just didn't sound right. Something didn't wash. So I know when I first got home, Carlos de los Santos, a member of our group, and I marched over the I-5 bridge, Veterans Against the War. because we felt we'd been lied to, we'd been cheated. And there are a lot of young men who sacrificed their life on that lie. Anyway, after that, I decided I'm not even going to be involved in anti-war movement. I'm just giving it up. It was time to start a family, build a career. And I successfully maintained that bunker mentality for pretty near 50 years. The first time I thought about Vietnam is when I played hooky from work and went and saw the movie Platoon. It was a weekday afternoon. I walked into the theater, totally dark, and there was nobody in there. But you know, once I heard the whop, 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 whop of helicopter blades, it all came rushing back. All of it, it just, all at one time, just washed over me. I started crying. Wow. I just couldn't stand it. It was at that point I decided, hey, I need to, you know, I need to retrieve these memories. I gotta deal with this. You know, there's never been closure. There's no one to talk to, really. And so what I did was I just started writing, not to anybody, just writing for myself so I can get my thoughts outside and look at them and hold them and turn them over and upside down, and, you know. And I found that there was a lot I couldn't remember. There was so much I suppressed that it was really hard to retrieve them. So with that huge intro, 50 years of silence, why speak up now? I'll tell you why. So FANHS, as they always do in their brilliance to embrace our Filipino-ness and our brownness, you know, sponsored a veterans panel on Veterans Day 2014. And for the first time, they had a Vietnam veteran, Ben Princess, a helicopter pilot who had been shot down, on the panel. And it was really a moving experience. And I looked around and I think there were at least 8 other Vietnam vets there. And at the end of the presentation, we looked at each other and said, you were in Vietnam? You were in Vietnam? Here, these are guys that I've known my whole life. And we've never talked about serving in Vietnam. And half of them I didn't even know were in Vietnam. Because in 50 years, we had played baseball together, we had gone out dancing together, we had meals together, our kids played together. Not once did I even know they were in Vietnam. The silence was deafening. So at that point, John Raguda said, hey, you know what? We should keep this thing going. So 14 days later, November 29th, we showed up at the FANHS building, FANHS offices, and that's the little recording you saw. It was the first time we'd all start getting together and started sharing story. And the only reason the silence was broken is because I was in a safe place. I was with my brothers. I knew them my whole life. I grew up with them. Our family shared time together. I wouldn't have come out and spoke about it except for, that's my family, that's my brownness. I'm a Filipino. John, on you.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Larry. I have a kind of a different story. I felt lucky because someone told me when I was going about my business and worried about getting drafted, that if you did well on your tests, that you'll do good. You won't have to go and be 11 Bravo. You won't have to hump the grass. You wouldn't have to do all that fighting out there like all them guys are doing. So I said, that sounds good to me. So I went through did my tests. I received awards for it. I got awards in basic. I got awards in AIT, which I spent in Augusta, Georgia. Now, Augusta, Georgia is a hot ass place. And it just terrible. It was like being in Vietnam. So it kind of got me ready for when I went there. And what did we learn, and what did they train us when we went to Vietnam? we went to this little place in the back, and they showed us these punji sticks. They showed us a hooch. They dug this little tunnel where the Vietnamese would go in and they'd hide, and that's where they stayed. That was my training for Vietnam. When I went to Vietnam, a lot of these guys flew over and had civilians on the planes. When I flew over, there was probably something like 325 GIs. And my welcome to Vietnam was, as we landed, the pilot would say, "We are now landing in Vietnam. If you see or if you hear mortars or rockets and they're trying to hit the plane, everybody get off in an orderly fashion and walk to the bunker." Now, can you see 325 guys getting out the plane and walking to these bunkers? My butt. Good thing we didn't get mortared. So I got on a plane. We spent 3 days in Benoit. Then I flew up to Nha Trang. From Nha Trang, I flew into Pleiku. From Pleiku, they told me I was going to the 278 Signal Company, which I was supporting the 4th Division. Again, notice I said Signal Company. We not have to hump the bush. And there I was a switchboard operator, and I worked my way up. And for some reason, somebody liked me over there, because after I became head honcho of the DCO Dallas Central Office, well, they decided I would be the mail clerk. Now, as a mail clerk, I was lucky. See, I got control of a 3/4 ton truck and a Jeep, and I go all over the place. However, now, and this is where it gets kind of scary. I had to deliver mail to Dragon Mountain, which was about 10 miles away. And a lot of times I had to go up there by myself. And you're just traveling down this road and you don't know what's coming at you. Then twice a week, I'd have to go to battalion headquarters, which is about maybe 15 miles away. And you're driving through empty roads. They're nice roads, but there's nothing there, nothing at all. You don't know what's coming at you. You don't know where people are, the snipers are. And whenever we went on red alert, I had to leave with a shotgun guy. But that's not going to do you any good. I had to go to battalion to pick up special information documents that went to the company and told where the Vietnamese were hiding, what was going on, and so that kind of bothered me. What no one ever tells you is when we were in the war and you had to pull guard. When we got there, I looked around and I saw that these mortars that shot like 10,000 BBs out that you controlled, you could fire. Well, they were cemented in the ground. Why were they cemented? Because before us, the Vietnamese used to come through the barbed wire. They turn the mortars around, and what they do is make a lot of noise, so they would fire at you. And we didn't want that happening. So, I was kind of lucky. When we came back from Vietnam, I knew there was a lot of guys that I knew that were in Vietnam. And we didn't talk about Vietnam. We didn't say anything about how you're doing, did you like it over there? The only reason I went to Vietnam, I should say, is because my dad fought in World War II. My dad fought for his country, and I figured since he did, I wasn't going to Canada. I was going to fight for my country. And I think I was lucky too when I got back, because when I got back, there was this agency named the Filipino Youth Activities. They did a lot of stuff to let kids know about the history. The drill team, if many of you may have seen, was part of it. In fact, they still are. The drill team carries on the FYA name. We had programs for kids. We worked with adults. We worked through jobs. We took on IBM. We took on this shop on the waterfront, Curiosity Shop, because they kept on selling the postcards with monkeys have no tails in Zamboanga. Well, they kept on selling those postcards, so we went after them. Like Larry said, though, as we went along, and the presentation that they had about Filipinos and wars that they were in, usually they left off the Vietnam vet. This is the very first time that they had the Vietnam vets that made a presentation. And Auntie Dorothy, Manong Dorothy, my ninong, said, you can't do that. You got to bring in these Vietnam vets. She knew a lot of us. And so she said, you need to bring in the Vietnam vets because no one's ever heard their story. And so, like I already said, about 7 or 8 of us went there. They asked me to get some vets to go. And what happened was we all looked at each other and, you know, we were all in the war. We never talked about it. We never said anything. So we decided we was going to hang together. And as we hung, we brought more and more in. For instance, like LA, he came in. I grabbed him and said, "No, if I'm in, you in." And then I went to school with Dan, and we found him. So I said, "Yeah, you in too." And like Dan said, he's with Agent Orange. I've got Agent Orange too. I'm 100% disabled vet. A lot of us don't look it, but a lot of us are disabled. Something that's not been said, they say by the year there was like 2.5 million, 2.5 million that went to Vietnam and that were in Vietnam. They say by the year 2025, there won't be very many of us left because of Agent Orange. You see, like Dan said, we went over, but we came back dying because of Agent Orange. The Agent Orange still don't know much about it. And a lot of I worked with a lot of vets trying to get them in to the VA, try to get them their disability, because they should have it. They went to war. They fought for their country. They should have it. They deserve it. Well, I'll be quiet for now, and you guys can ask questions. I said enough.
Okay. Let me ask just one more question to each of you as our close, and that would be, what do you think the significance is for these Filipino American Vietnam veterans? What do you think is their significance? Go ahead, Dan, you can start. Did Dan go?
Yeah, his mic is off. He's muted.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. Call of Duty. There's a Call of Duty. And Filipino Americans, in my opinion, at least in the 60s, they understood that Call of Duty. And I'm sure there were some draft dodgers. But I didn't know any that went to Canada. But certainly one of the things that that was kind of significant to me in that Call of Duty thing was, at the time I was drafted, I was in my 3rd year of college. And I was already a disappointment to my father. Maybe not a total disappointment, but I certainly wasn't what he was hoping I would be. And I wanted to make up for that. So going in the service was one of the things that I could do. Detrimental to all of my friends that told me they knew of all other sorts of things that we could, or I could do, and I wasn't about to do any of that. There's a family and a cultural generational pride that comes in here. And that's being Filipino American. You kind of have that, a generational pride. I'm proud of John. I'm proud of Larry. I'm proud of the whole group you guys introduced me to. But there's also our heritage. And in my head, and I hope it's true, is that for those who were around as young adults in the 60s and 70s, our heritage is indebted to the US actions in World War II. That's one of the significance of Filipino Americans being in the Vietnam War. Again, I didn't know of any Filipino Americans that went to far extremes to get out of the draft or get out of going to war. I had a couple of friends that were drafted with me, and we were going the same day. Neither one of them Filipino American. Sorry about that. Neither one were Filipino American. One guy told me that he was going to the night before, and I was at his house the night before. He said, I'm going to take a few psychedelics tonight. I'm going to stay up all night, and I think I'll take a couple more before I go to the induction center. And I said, why are you even bothering? Another friend, I actually had my mother drive me to the induction center, and we picked him up on the way. He comes walking out of his house, and he doesn't have anything with him. Gets in the car, and I'm going, Bob, you're not bringing anything? Your toiletries, a change of underwear? And he goes, well, I expect to come home tonight. I didn't know what all that meant, but sure enough, when I was leaving that induction center on a bus to Fort Lewis, those two guys were outside waving bye-bye to me as I left. Again, they didn't foresee or didn't have the family kind of stuff behind them that I did. I would have disappointed my family, and I didn't want to do that. So there was one other thing that I kind of wanted to mention about this that's significant to me being a Filipino American. My dad, when I was young, he told me about growing up in Cebu and about how he worked in the farm and in the paddies, tending buffalo, water buffalo. He wore a hat, those conical hats, coolie hat, rice hat. Well, the first time that when I was in Vietnam and I saw young kids in the rice paddies with water buffalo wearing one of those hats, I thought of my dad. I saw my heritage in those fields. And that stayed with me the whole time I was there. It could have been the Philippines.
Yep.
So take it away, Larry.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I can relate. I had the same experience. As a young Marine out on a patrol doing a search and destroy, and it's 114-degree weather. I mean, the colors were almost psychedelic, the greens of the jungle and the different flowers and stuff. But I could imagine my father being in the Philippines, working the rice paddy. You felt kind of a kinship while you were there. Well, look, the question is, what is the significance of Filipino American Vietnam War veterans? Well, the significance is Filipino American Vietnam War veterans is the American story. We're not separate. We are the American story. It was an opportunity for us to meet people from Virginia, Chicago, Florida, Chattanooga, Dallas, New Mexico. We met people from all over the United States, and they got to meet us, Pinoys from Seattle. And you found out we were more alike than different. We had family values, we valued our families, our families instilled the value of education, of church, of community, of obeying the law and doing the right thing, not cheating, not stealing, not lying. They taught us to have honor. So the significance when we as young Filipinos answered what Dan calls the call to duty, our civic responsibility as citizens, every generation, freedom is not guaranteed. Freedom must be defended from generation to generation. It was now our turn. And we did not shirk from that duty. We stood tall, maybe only 5'8", but that's as tall as I can stand. And, when we signed our oath up to and including our own lives to preserve our heritage of freedom and to preserve the values that we enjoyed living for this country. So that full participation is a two-sided coin, though. Yes, we were willing to sign our name on the dotted line and take the oath to support and defend the Constitution to all enemies, foreign and domestic. But with that comes the flip side, excuse the pun, comes the flip side. We expect full participation. We expect equal treatment. We expect equal protection. So when we go and you say, what is the significance? The significance is we are America and we are full members and we will engage in our full participation. John, on you.
Right on, Larry. Thank you.
Well, like Larry said, we are Americans. That's what we went there in as Americans, and we expected to be treated just like all the other Americans. There was a chance where before I went in, before I got drafted, 2 of my buddies that were in the drill team with me died in Vietnam. They were killed. One of them, there was another one who hung around the FYA, probably because he hung around the drill team because the drill team had a lot of ladies in it. But he was shot in Vietnam too. So we had our chance to kind of just take off, go to Canada, just hide until the war was over. But but all of us decided not to. We decided to do our duty. We decided to do what we could to protect, as Larry once said, we didn't know much about the communists, about them coming here, would they get here? I don't want, my dad fought in the war. I don't want him fighting in another one. And the only sad thing about it is when we got back, we again became second-class citizens. We couldn't get the jobs. We couldn't get anything that would make us be somebody. We had to work hard for that. We had to work hard for that to get what we were and do what we were doing. Larry worked hard, and I know he did well within the city, within the county. My thing, I got lucky, like I said before, when I got back, because see, I had the Filipino Youth Activities Agency that I could come back to, that supported me, that took care of me, that we didn't get a send-off like the others did. We didn't get a welcome when we came back, but I did from the FYA when I came back from the war, because I was one of the only ones that went there from the FYA. And it's rough. you coming back here and you know, I think that we have a group in Seattle that, well, actually it's Greater Seattle because we got guys from in Tacoma, up in Marysville, Issaquah. We got two that that used to live in Wapato and Yakima. But we all knew each other way back when we were kids. And we told ourselves that we're going to hang with each other. We're going to work with each other. We're going to help each other. That's the one thing that we have. That's the one thing that our significance here is that we would do what we could to survive and to make sure each one of us survived.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.
Alan?
Go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge the Seattle Pinoys that are on the Vietnam War.
Okay, yeah, right on.
Enrique Thomas Enriqueo, Ignacio Escobar Duro, Juan Valesco Mina Jr. These are Seattle Pinoys. Also, the two we lost from our group here in the last couple of years, Gina Domingo Cabral and Jeffrey Telban Getchum. Thank you.
Right on. Well, you guys will always be my role models. I am from Seattle too. And it took, I really appreciate your time and your courage to tell your stories, because these stories need to be told. Hopefully you continue on talking about your stories, because the country needs to know. We need to know. And we really appreciate you being on this show. And with that said, let me hand it over to Ray, who will send us off.
Excuse me, beforehand, that this is Dan's sister.
Oh, hi. Oh, you were we haven't met yet, but then so you have the reputation of being one of the finest women in Seattle. Because we didn't know who Dan was, but everybody knew who Dan's sisters were.
Thank you so much.
Carmen, I told him that. You don't remember me. I was little when I came to your house.
Little when I came.
Anyway, I just want to say how proud I am of you guys, and it's a privilege to have been able to watch this and be educated as to how you guys felt after the war. As Dan said, it was tough to talk about right away, and I did try to pry him open. But I just want to know that I want you to know I'm so proud of each and every one of you. You've done a service to us all. Thank you for giving the privilege to know you a little bit better, and have a good day or good evening.
Thanks, John.
Back east. I'm in outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Now my sister, she was around. I had been back from Vietnam for a year, and two friends came to visit me, two Army buddies from New Jersey and Connecticut. They drove out, and we crisscrossed the country together. And Carmen was at my parents' house when they came to Seattle, and she made tacos for them. And I remember that because that's all those guys could talk about. all that trip. And then when we got back to New Jersey, I was able to go visit my sister. She was living in where were you, in upstate New York? I think. Yes, and I'd never been up there. I was so happy to go up there and visit her. Anyway, thanks for the sidebar.
Sure.
Okay, Ray.
So I'm just going to share out with you guys as I was hearing your stories. I actually sent an email to my colleagues who teach U.S. history with me, and I just was reminded by hearing all of your words that the best way to learn history is by storytelling. And what you guys did today, and it just shared your story. I actually shared in an email what a blessing it was to actually be here on the Zoom. So one of these days, I really want to meet with you guys and just just listen. I'll buy you guys all around a beer if you want. It's just so if I could just sit there and listen to you guys, because this is, as a history teacher, I'm really just blown away at your words and your stories. So thank you guys so much. This was great for me. Also, I'm looking at the chat. Max Frias tells another story about Vietnam. If you guys want to look up there, when he was going to VCU at the time, Jenny Dizon tells a story about her dad. And some of the similarities and parallels that I never knew. I've known Jenny for years now, and I never knew that that was something that even happened with her family. So I'm going to kind of open the floor up to any of you else who may be joining us as guests who want to share any stories, or any of the folks who want to ask a question to the folks here. Anyone want to chime in? Anybody at all? I have one, since I don't see this. Like I said, I wasn't alive when you guys were going through your experience with Vietnam. But I do want to say this though, and I kind of like when I believe it was Larry who said the movie he went to go see Platoon, right? Was it Platoon? I remember that. And one of the things that I just kind of like, a movie that dehydrated me after I saw it was the movie Deer Hunter. Have you guys ever seen the movie Deer Hunter?
That's the one that did it for me. That's the one that did it for me.
I knew a lot of them. They walked out on Deer Hunter. A lot of the Vietnam vets.
They what? I'm sorry.
A lot of the Vietnam vets, when they saw Deer Hunter, they walked out on it.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, this is kind of like a great perspective, because I'm looking at that as, that story is canon. Like, this happened to everyone. If you want to just let me know, like, what was the controversy with that, John?
It brought back too much. It was too soon.
Right.
Too soon. It was you're right.
Vietnam.
Gotcha.
It was the first one out. It was also so for those that saw the Deer Hunter, it was like Technicolor.
You were there. You went back.
It's like it was like Technicolor, not real, and it was so the sensory part of it was just too much.
Wow.
I remember I told Diane I wasn't in that movie for more than 10 minutes, and she was enjoying all the the old Polish women prepping for a wedding, and so I used to always call Diane. She was Russian Jew, and I used to call her an old Russian woman. You look like those old Polish women. but so anyway, that movie, it wasn't the first 10 minutes or so, but I told Diane as I'm watching this movie, as they get into the very first war scene, is, woman, you are buying me a lot of drinks after this movie tonight. And we went to a place where we could get into a booth, and they had those little curtains that you pulled across the booth so it was private. That movie hit me hard. Platoon too. Platoon also.
Thank you for sharing that.
So my favorite Vietnam movie is Full Metal Jacket. Being a Marine, of course, the depiction of boot camp was pretty accurate. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And also when they got to Vietnam, and my favorite scene in the movie is Joker is got his helmet on, and a colonel comes up and he goes, "What is that? You have a peace sign on one side, and kill them all on the other side." He goes, "Sir, that's the duality of man." And it's so true. It's a lesson you learn. I learned. I was 17 years old when I joined. I was 19 years old, boots on the ground in Vietnam. And the lesson I learned is, and Peter talked about some of us brawling in the streets. Yeah, I was a street fighter in Seattle before I went in the Marine Corps. One thing it taught me was taking violence to the nth degree. Man, I recognized violence was not the right way to go. It really changed me profoundly in what my beliefs were. And it welcomed that social and political conscience in me that, You know, war's not healthy for people or any other living things.
Oh, before we leave, can everybody fill out the poll that I put out there, because we need to get some feedback. This is actually the first time we've ever done this, and we want to get some feedback as far as if you like it or not. And yeah, you can continue on the questions and answers, but please fill out the poll.
Can I say something, Ray?
Okay, Edwina.
I just wanted to let all the speakers know how much I enjoyed this. You really bring history to, we read about the Vietnam War, but we really don't know the impact. And so the speakers tonight, you all gave me such a great perspective and appreciation, and also appreciation of our culture. So I thank you. I thank you for your service. And what's really great about our culture is that we're here to share stories. And if we continue the legacy and you're part of the journey, I just wanted to say thanks. It's great.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments before we wrap it up for the evening?
Oh yeah, let me say one more thing. John gave me you guys' pictures like an hour or two ago, and I don't know how to do these pictures too good. So I apologize to you, Dan. I didn't know how to put your pictures in your bio. And so like there's these huge gaps when you click on your bio, because every time I tried to tighten it up, it'll erase itself. I said, oh my God, how do you do this? So I apologize, Dan, on trying to get your pictures up.
I only sent you 100. John, did you happen to take a look at those pictures?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't send him any of those. I sent him the ones you had sent me earlier.
I sent some there that were a road trip out to the west, and it's just driving through all the defoliation from Agent Orange, and I thought that was something you might take interest in.
Just one more question for me, and then I'll kind of turn it over. I noticed that with Larry and John, you guys have the symbols, the banners behind you. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Filipino veterans banners that I see?
These are originally very original logos. One of our members, Lenny Ligo, is a professional graphic artist. And so we commissioned him to come up with a design. And we had a little bit of discussion, and he asked us what elements. And we said, well, you know, you have to represent Filipinos, and you have to represent the American part of our dual heritage. And of course, this is about war veterans. So you got to have something that represents the Vietnam War. And he came up with this logo. So we'll start with the Filipino part, the most significant, I feel, and that's the Cross Bolos. You know, bolos were farm instruments. And of course, with the over 300 years of Spanish colonization, they did not allow Filipinos to have weapons. So we used our farm implements as weapons. And to this day, your bolos are still used in Filipino martial arts and eskrima and arnis, you know. So that represents the Filipino-ness of our logo. Obviously, the American flag shows the other side of our heritage, our Filipino-American heritage, with the symbol of the United States, the Old Glory. And then it is encased with the border Filipino veterans. And what you can't see, but if you go back to the very first screen Ellen showed you, his Google documents, you'll see the whole logo. At the bottom is the Vietnam Service Medal or Service Ribbon. So if you met the qualifications for being in a combat zone and you served there honorably, you were awarded a recipient of the Vietnam Service Medal. So at the very bottom of our logo is the U.S. military's Vietnam Service Medal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I think we also have, since our group has grown to more than 20, and we do make presentations at colleges, at high schools. we're asked to come in and talk about the Vietnam War. The war. We also have hats that have the logo, and Larry had some t-shirts designed so that we would have, and I have a polo shirt that I like polo shirts, so I put the logo on it. And we have t-shirts that a lot of us wear when we go out or just when we hang with each other or we have gatherings. We do have gathering once in a while, and we'll just sit and talk. And when we first originally pulled together, and there was maybe 9, 10, or 12 of us, there were some really gory stories that came out that I have never heard. And all this stuff came out because, you know, we, like Larry said before, we knew each other. We hung with each other. We ran the streets with each other. We went to dances with each other. And so we trusted each other. That's a trust factor in that, in all of us being together, that we could say anything we wanted. And we knew we wouldn't leave that room.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for the good of the cause? So for the, on behalf of FANHS Now and everyone on this, oh, Edwina, did you want to say something? I don't know what that, I think she's saying she needs to go. But on the behalf of FANHS Now and FANHS-HR and everyone else on this Zoom call, we really appreciate the stories and also the inspiration that you men have shared with us today. And like I said, you know, as a history teacher, as a Filipino American, as somebody who you know, loves FANHS like it's a family, I consider you guys my uncles now. So even though we haven't met yet, but like I said, if I'm ever in Seattle, I'm hanging out with you guys. Hopefully you guys are invited to the barbecue.
Gonna cost a lot for that beer.
All right, guys, we got to go. Edwina's tired. She's been in the office for 12 hours. So
thank you guys. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Let's put our hands together.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, John.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye, sis. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye, Con.
Bye, Karen.
Alan.
Yeah.
Alan,
Yeah.
stay on